Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today we're going to discuss the best and worst cities for expats in 2020 and my reaction to kind of the recent list that came out. So we will go through places that you might want to live, might not. I'm going to kind of shed some light on, based on my experience, how people who probably watch this channel are maybe a little bit different than the people who are respondents in the survey that this comes out of. So we will see from there. Before we do that, though, if you would not please do me a quick favor, and that is hit the subscribe button. Very much helps us out, as well as the notification bell. Happy to produce good content for you. Hopefully, if you have some content, please tell us what it is that you would like. If you're interested at all in these subjects of residencies, citizenships, getting second passports, paying the lowest legal amount of tax possible, setting up international tax structures, offshore companies, bank accounts, asset protection, payment processing, etc., please reach out to me. You can book a call, query.fm/Michael Rosmer, link below, or you can visit our websites, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. And I hope you will smash the like button if you like this video, and if you don't, please tell us. Okay, so basically this group, Expat Insider, I guess that it is, or Internations, came out with a list that I'm in a group for Kuala Lumpur. I'm a big, huge Malaysia fan, huge KL fan, and so KL was on this list, and I happened to see the article and start going through it and thought, hey, this would be maybe something that would be interesting to cover, because I get a lot of people, often when people are calling and we're having phone calls, etc., one of the big questions they have is, hey, where should I move? And part of that is tax, part of it is asset protection or structuring or banking or, some business purpose or whatever. But part of it is lifestyle, right? A big thing I tell people is I say, hey, listen, have you been there? Like, you want to go someplace that you like. In my opinion, there is hardly no amount of money that is worth saving in order to be in some place you hate, unless it's like a really temporary thing. You're like, okay, I'm going to make a ton of money and cash out, and then I'm going to be gone. Most of the time, I'm like, hey, the whole point of making money is to enjoy your life, or at least that's one of the reasons. And so, you can start by just enjoying your life. So let's go down the list of what they've got here, and I will give you my reaction. So what they talk about is a lot of the destinations are in the Iberian Peninsula. I think it's like 5 out of the top 10 or something, or at least 3 out of the top 5, being Valencia, Alicante, and Lisbon. Okay. Oh yeah, and then they add in Malaga is in there, and we're gonna find out where the other one is when we get down this this list. Let's see here. Yeah, Malaga and Madrid. Okay, so basically, what is this telling us? This is telling us that, hey, look, people like good weather. Surprise, surprise. And they tend to like lower cost of living. So for those of you who have not been, the south of Spain is wonderful. Like, it's one of the best climates in Europe. Obviously, you have access to Europe and kind of the European conveniences, so things work fairly well. Similar, if you kind of go over to Portugal, Lisbon, right? So Lisbon is in the southern part of Portugal. There's some other places, Faro, etc., depending on where it is that you want to go and where you want to be, what you're interested in. I have some clients who live, say, like right on the coast. There's like the biggest surfing waves in the world are there in kind of winter time. So different interests for people. But generally speaking, this seems to be a high value lifestyle type place. What can I tell you about this? So what I would say from the perspective of our clients typically is that probably Lisbon and Marbella stand out here. So in the list, they mention Malaga. For those of you who aren't familiar, Malaga is just up the coast from Marbella. So it's a larger center, but it's kind of less luxurious. So some of the most luxurious area in terms of like really nice houses and lots of people driving expensive cars and all this kind of thing. It's great for kind of networking with a certain group of people, is Marbella. Marbella tends to offer quite a lot. I filmed some videos from there, I think it was last year, something like that. So you can go and check those out. Now, the flip side of this, and this comes into, again, the part for our clients, is Spain is horrible for tax. Atrocious, really bad. It is not a good place to have a business, okay? not a good place to get set up and run things, etc. So what ends up happening, this is part of the reason why for our clients, Portugal is much more desirable. I would say that in practice, at least for me, I don't enjoy Lisbon as much as I do these southern Spanish cities. And actually, I enjoy the northern, like I enjoy Barcelona quite a lot. So, again, to each their own. The food is great in both places. I'm a big food person, but the food scene is definitely better in Spain, or that there's just more of it, and it goes to a higher level. If you go to places like San Sebastian, there's a couple Michelin 3-star restaurants in Barcelona, etc. Like there's very, very good food scene in Spain. It's one of the best in the world. So you've got that, you have the beaches. You have beaches in Portugal, but a lot of the area, it's on the Atlantic coast, and as a result, it's quite cold. So, not nearly as good as if you can be in the Mediterranean, in particular the southern Mediterranean. So that's one thing also to keep in mind. So I would say generally you get a higher end crowd in the southern part of Spain, in particular Marbella. You get, it's a country that just offers more, and the beaches, etc. You get some things that are better in that regard. But that being said, because of the non-habitual residency regime in Portugal, you can quite easily get much better tax treatment than you can in Spain. Now, I have mentioned, and I will maybe do another more in-depth video on this in the future, there's a program called La Ley Beckham in Spain, which can give you a 6-year period where you can have some fairly favorable terms. I've had a few clients who have used it, so that is an option. The other thing that a bunch of people will do is they will actually live somewhere else in Europe, such as Portugal, where they can get more favorable tax treatment, or at least kind of pretend to live there, and then actually spend a large portion of their time in Spain where they prefer it. So anyway, that's the starting point of this list. Now, the thing that they kind of contrast on the other side is that, hey, listen, there is a counterpoint to this, and that is, because we're talking about the best and the worst, these are, I listed off 5 of the best. So they listed, just so we have the record here, Valencia is number 1, Alicante is number 2, Lisbon is number 3, Malaga is 6th, and Madrid is 9th. Okay, that was kind of on this thing. And they mentioned that it's not very necessarily great for work. Now, again, most of our clients aren't getting jobs locally, so it's not really a big deal. But they didn't account for taxes, and most of our clients are quite concerned with taxes. So there's that. Now, if you can stay long enough in either Portugal or Spain, the passports are very good, right? It's very, very good visa-free travel, and so that's excellent. But generally speaking, just because of the tax treatment, Lisbon tends to be preferred, although the people may not actually live in that area. So the counterpoint is that Rome, London, and Paris are all very low ranked in this. And the reason that they say, according to this study, or kind of survey, is because of the cost of living. Fairly obvious. These are expensive cities. In particular, I would say Paris and London are just crazily expensive. Of these, in my opinion, and kind of based on the experience I have with my clients, like nobody really lives in Rome. I don't know why, honestly, a person would, if you're kind of like a digital nomad, entrepreneur, business owner, location independent, etc., just Rome is just not the place to be. It's just, if you were to be in Italy, you probably would be, somewhere on the coast, or possibly further up north in Milan or some places like that, that area. Or possibly, if you're looking from a business standpoint, you can get very cheap labor, etc., in Naples. And so I've got some clients who will do some stuff there. But generally, Italy is not a business-friendly place. Now, the one thing that you can get in Italy is they have a flat tax system that you can get. So you can move there as a foreigner, and you can get a capped flat tax. So that can be pretty good for you if your income is quite high. And so I'd say that's especially attractive if you're looking at, I don't know, say like the north of Italy, where there's, Lake Como or something like that, right? Now, Paris, I've done some videos recently on France as, how insane it is for taxes, on top of the fact that it's insane for cost of living. So I think, it's a beautiful city. There's, a bunch kind of lifestyle-wise that you may appreciate, but none of my clients really want to live there long-term. It's like a place where they're like, hey, I'd like to go and live there for 6 months and have that experience. By the contrast, London is kind of a different place. First of all, the corporate taxes are not insane in UK. It's a pretty reasonable regime. Like London, UK is pretty well organized. There's a bunch that works quite well. The Companies House is amazing. They're fantastic for registering companies and maintaining them, etc. The tax collectors aren't assholes. We like that. That's excellent. And there's really strong capital markets there. There's a great, vibrant, like venture capital or kind of tech startup ecosystem. And so like by far the most deals get funded anywhere in Europe in London. Now with Brexit, we'll see kind of how that plays out. And London is of course very expensive, but I have a bunch of clients who've moved from all over the world there just because of that reason. So there's definitely lots of opportunities in London in spite of that. And again, they have the non-dom tax thing that you could kind of play with a little bit. But even if you don't, just keeping money within the company, corporate tax rate is fairly reasonable. And so yeah, it's a pretty business-friendly area, and that would be one thing. Okay, what are the other top five, or the other five in the top 10 on this list? They are Panama City, Singapore, Buenos Aires, Kuala Lumpur, and Abu Dhabi. Okay, all right. So my thoughts on these. Panama City. So Panama City is a very, very common place that we have people move to. And that is because of the fact that it is super easy to get the Panama Friendly Nations visa, okay? So, and it's a really easy one to set up, it's an easy one to maintain, and it's an easy one to pay very little tax, if any, on. The problem is, I have almost nobody who stays there. So to me, this is a really interesting indicator. I've never tried living there. I have lived in Costa Rica for periods of time. But Panama, not so much. And the interesting thing, yeah, like I said, is that it's very, very rare that I run into people who actually want to stay there long term. Some of the information that people have told me is it's difficult to kind of get set up there, whereas say Asia is very accessible. It's not in Panama. That's something. Panama is quite expensive, so in that sense, some people dislike it a lot more. And then, it's semi-dangerous, depending on how much that plays into your kind of view of things. Certainly more so than, say, a lot of the Eastern European countries or examples like that. So anyway, Panama, kind of my basic indicator is, hey, listen, if it's so good, why is nobody staying there, right? And so that would kind of be my comment for you on Panama. It's great for taxes, horrible for international reputation. Easy to set up, easy to maintain. It's attractive to people. I think if you're going to have it as a base to travel out of, then aside from the fact that it's not very close to a lot of the places that you might like to go, it can still be an okay place. Singapore. I mean, Singapore is an amazing city, right? Like one of the top cities in the world in terms of things working, etc. I typically find clients from Singapore, so people who are actually natives there rather than people who are moving there. And part of the reason is it's actually quite difficult to move there. So I'm contrasting here, it's very easy to go to Spain or Portugal. It's very easy to go to Panama. It is not so easy to go to Singapore. So that's something to bear in mind. It's also a very expensive city. Yeah, it offers kind of world-class opportunities, etc. It's not a great place to hire people. Wages are high and access to talent is not good because, I mean, first of all, it's not a huge market, right? You're talking about 5 million people and it's highly competitive. So that's something. Buenos Aires. Again, Buenos Aires I find is a place that a lot of people like to visit as tourists. I don't get a lot of people who seem to want to go and live there. And one of the things that I hear a lot from people is just it's very removed. I certainly would feel that way just based on kind of my preferences of where I'd like to be, right? Argentina, though, is a great place to park for a couple of years to get a great passport. It's one of the fastest passports that you can get and like a really good one in the process. So definitely worth considering in that regard if you like Latin American culture. It's not a good place for business. It's not a good place in terms of kind of regulations and the currency and all this kind of thing. Like not good in that respect. But if you were to set up there to operate via foreign companies, etc., structure yourself properly for a few years, live there, get the passport, etc., that's not a bad strategy. I wouldn't bank there. I wouldn't have a company there, etc. Kuala Lumpur. I mean, Kuala Lumpur is fantastic. I'm going to do some other videos in the future. In my opinion, the best value per unit of best quality of life per unit of money in the world is in Kuala Lumpur, in my opinion. Fantastic. If you're in the city center, kind of the KLCC and Pavilion area, then it is much more like Singapore than it is like Bangkok. You can go at some other areas where it's a little bit different. It's very inexpensive. You can potentially pay low tax. Residency there is not super easy, but not super hard. They had the MM2H program, which is closed right now. They have a number of other ones, MTEP. They have a level on director's visa. They've got a few different systems there. It's so-so to get residency there. But I think as a place to base yourself out of, I think it's really good if you don't mind the humidity. So the humidity is kind of, they have good healthcare there. I don't know about education. I don't have kids, so I can't speak to that. But they have very good healthcare services. It's a city that offers a lot. It's less, there's an expression they say, live in KL, do business in Singapore, party in Bangkok. So, in terms of the party type stuff, there's certainly more of it and better in Bangkok. If you're into like nightclubs or something, the nightlife in KL is not that good. You can go out to these, big supposedly happening places and they're kind of mediocre by world standard. But and alcohol is expensive. So if you're into that, and also they're all in Southeast Asia, they're quite against drugs. So some people who are against, or they like smoking weed or something, not going to work out for you. But I think it's fantastic. And then we've got Abu Dhabi. All right, Abu Dhabi. What would I say about Abu Dhabi? I'm not a huge Abu Dhabi fan personally. I've had some employees who have lived there. I'm just a much bigger fan of Dubai. Like, to me, why you would go and live in Abu Dhabi, maybe, people who are filling out this survey are people who are, again, looking more for jobs, and maybe there's better paying jobs or something there. If you're maybe like a family person, etc., you might like that. But if I compare Abu Dhabi and Dubai offers way more. Like, it's just, first of all, there's a lot more expats. You're talking about like 90% of the population is foreigners, and so that's going to help kind of socially, I think, as compared with Abu Dhabi. I certainly didn't find the same when I've been in Abu Dhabi. Like I said, there's just not as much that is offered. So from cuisine, things to do, the rules are more strict. It's more Islamic in that sense than Dubai is. So generally speaking, I would say if I'm going to the Emirates, I'm going for Dubai or the halo of Dubai. Maybe you want to live out and be in, someplace a little bit out and pay a little less for, having a nice house or something like that. That's fine. But having access to Dubai, in my opinion, is better. The airport's also better connected. There's like 3 airports right in that from Abu Dhabi up to Dubai. But certainly the Dubai International Airport is extremely well connected. And then if you need, you can always go down to Abu Dhabi very easily. And there's also a southern Dubai airport. So one of the things that I would say about this in general is Singapore and KL, very well connected to Asia, and then you can fairly easily jump from there to Europe. Obviously, if you have to go across the Pacific to get North and South America, that's pretty long travel. Panama, some people like because of the fact that you're dealing in North American time zones. So if they're doing business with Americans, Canadians, etc., then that's good. And then if you want to be traveling around Europe, then of course being in places like Lisbon, Malaga, etc. Malaga has a bunch of like Wizz Air connections through it, so it actually has quite a few direct destinations, which is pretty good. Madrid, of course, is very well connected. Probably the best of those. Valencia, I'm not sure how well Valencia is connected comparatively, but anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea from that standpoint. I already mentioned some of the places that were bad on their list were Rome, Paris, and London. Seoul, Korea, they also listed. I mean, I haven't spent that much time in Seoul, but I personally, it's not really to my taste. The one place that a lot of people do seem to really like is Taipei. So getting kind of a more Japanese culture as opposed to Chinese, and having fairly reasonable cost of living. It's one of the places that some people describe. If you kind of look, I mentioned before I had lived in Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, I sometimes say it's a third world country with first world prices for a lot of things. And I would say that, if you were to flip it around, you have like Taiwan is one of the countries that people would say is, a first world country with third world prices. So you kind of get a little bit better in that regard, although weather-wise, it's not quite as good. So yeah, South Korea, in my opinion, not so great either. They also listed Milan as being very low, down there with Rome. They listed Dublin as being quite bad, largely because of the costs, along with Paris. They threw Hong Kong and Beijing in there with Seoul at the bottom. I've not been to Beijing yet, so I cannot comment on that one. Hong Kong, if you haven't been to Hong Kong, I mean, Hong Kong is an amazing world-class city. Like, it's kind of the New York of that part of the world. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Very Manhattan-esque vibe. I wouldn't probably want to live there because I'm somebody who likes a bit of space, and I mean, cost of housing is super expensive in Hong Kong, but the opportunities, the pace, like having things happen, it has definitely got that kind of energy. There's lots going on. I have a few people who have told me it's their favorite city. Then the last ones that they list here are Nairobi, Johannesburg, and Cape Town, which is obviously good in terms of the climate and less happy in terms of some other things. Now, to be fair, obviously the big ones in South Africa are the safety factor, right? Also, South Africa is there's quite a lot of people who leave South Africa for international structuring or for alternative passports, etc. So, doing business, I don't know how you would say that exactly. I've had a few people who told me they would just love South Africa. It's one of their favorite countries in the world to visit. But as a place to live and do business, that's a little bit different. So anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Would love to hear from you about, I'll do kind of my own list in the future, but I wanted to react to this one and see what I could share kind of from a little bit of a different perspective, thinking of it from the standpoint, again, of tax, ease of doing business, etc. Like I said, I'll go and I'll do my own, where I do my own little index of great places and bad places from that standpoint. But yeah, tell me what it is that you guys think. Would love to hear from you. If you have any interest in, hey, listen, where are the best places to move for you based on your circumstances? Happy to help you with that. Happy to help you with, what are the places that you get residency? What are the best ways to get residency? If you want to work towards a passport or buy a passport, happy to help you with that. How do you do your tax structuring depending on where you're going to live? That's something we can help you with, setting up companies, bank accounts, etc. You can book a call with me, clarida.fm/Michael Rosmer in the link below, or offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. I will see you guys on the next video.